depicting such axes were also found etched on the walls. The mythical labyrinth has been associated with Knossos ever since.
I can remember coming here as a child and hearing the myths of the labyrinth and being amazed. It captured my imagination and left an impression on me for the rest of my life.
More than 1 million people come to Knossos every year. It's become famous as the possible site of the labyrinth that inspired the Minotaur myth. The remains at Knossos show that this was once a complex structure, with numerous interlacing corridors and rooms. But was it a labyrinth? Nick has arranged to meet archaeologist Professor Sandy McGillivray, an acclaimed authority on Knossos.
Being a student at university, I learnt that not all is as it seems here at the Palace at Knossos. You think that we can say that this is the labyrinth, or is it a labyrinth?
I think it's nothing of the sort. Arthur Evans was digging for mythology. Because Evans was looking for minotaurs and labyrinths, everything was interpreted through that lens. So in fact, what he called the horns of consecration was a very well-known symbol for the horizon in ancient Egypt, and that is probably what it meant to the Minoans as well. But because Evans was looking for minotaurs, it became a bull's head. All the interpretation and what they find has a lot to do with what they were looking for when they got there.
The professor believes that there were labyrinths in ancient times used for some kind of ritual ceremonies.
We know that in the Roman period, people were still coming to Crete to be initiated into the cult of Dictaean Zeus, the Cretan-born Zeus. And the labyrinth was a place where you went and you experienced something that transformed you.
But were these ritual labyrinths natural rather than man-made structures?
Crete has a lot of caves. I can't remember the last count, 500 of natural caves, many of which were visited in antiquity. So there are buildings that are labyrinths. There are also places that are labyrinths. So in fact, you could have done such a thing, gone through such a process in a building like Knossos, or you could have gone through it in the caves.
The professor believes caves may have been used as labyrinths. The island of Crete is riddled with them. Nick has contacted a group of cave explorers who've directed him to a town east of Knossos. The cave complex at Skotino is one of the largest on the island and was used for religious rituals in ancient times. Even for experienced cavers, entering this cave complex is dangerous. Fortunately for Nick, he has 2 experienced guides.
Yes, Kanate. Yes, thanks. It's good to be here.
Excellent. That should be good.
How far do we descend down?
I would say about 20-25 meters vertical.
The entrance to the Skotino caves is concealed in a hollow. As Nick gets nearer, he sees a forbidding hole. From the entrance, a great steep tunnel of jagged rocks leads down into the earth. At the end of the tunnel, there is another, steeper drop. Nick and his guides work their way into a second tunnel, a narrow crevasse. As they make their way slowly into the mountain among the rocks, they come across a fragment of pottery.
This pottery is a little bit burnt.
Oh, yeah.
You see?
Yeah. This is possibly a Minoan pot fragment that could have been used in some sort of votive offering, as we know from the amount of ashes found here that things were thrown into the fire as part of the ceremony.
The crevasse opens up into a great cave, and then another drop further into the earth. The Scotino caves are daunting, dark, and treacherous. According to local legend, this is where the story of the Minotaur was born. Perhaps mysterious ancient rituals performed within these caves inspired such terrifying tales.
We're gonna descend down around 6 to 7 meters.
All right. We're descending now into the sort of most sacred levels of the Scotino cave.
The honeycomb of twisted shafts and tunnels is confusing. Tight passages link one cave to another in a seemingly endless subterranean maze.
About 160 meters into the depth. And now we're about to enter the last chamber. You can really see why it would have impressed them coming into a place like this. But probably only the high priestesses would have been allowed access into this deepest grotto of the cave. So this is very sacred ground that we're standing on now.
As they reach the heart of the cave complex, they come upon an ancient altar cut from the rock. Spookily, it seems as if the altar is still in use.
This is amazing. It looks as if there's been some sort of recent ritual, if you judge by these feathers.
It looks like an animal sacrifice.
Have you heard of this happening before in these sorts
To
of...
be honest with you, no. It's the first time I see it. I don't know. I'm surprised.
A ritual sacrifice in the heart of a complex of tunnels is a bizarre echo of the Minotaur myth.
What we can say is, I think that there's something fundamental about spirituality about this place, which is a focal point for worship. Even today, there's a church above the ground, which shows the power of this place in the landscape.
But something doesn't quite fit with the myth of a man-made maze.
Manos, do you think that man has had any role shaping this cavern?
Not really. I don't think so, not really. It's all formed naturally. It takes a stalagmite to evolve about a centimeter every 100 years.
All right.
So it's all natural.
So these would be tens of thousands of years.
Yes, of course.
According to the myth, the labyrinth was designed by the architect and magician, Daedalus. Although the natural winding passages of Scotino are imposing, Nick believes there are even more compelling examples of labyrinths to be found elsewhere. A quest is on to find a real place that may be linked to the terrifying myth of the Minotaur. A strange symbol on a 500-year-old map marks a spot east of Heraklion, the capital of Crete. Geography expert Nick Howarth has been to Gortin before, where an underground system of passageways emerges from under the earth. Swiss caver Thomas Waldmann is one of the few people to have explored the underground complex. But this time the entrance is sealed off. A couple of soldiers soon appear. Word seems to have spread of the visitors' interest in the Gortin complex. Unable to access the tunnels, Nick is forced to rely on the caver's account of what it's like down there.
What do people see when they come and visit the labyrinth?
Some said this is the labyrinth of the mythology, and some said, no, no, this is not the labyrinth of the mythology, so you have both opinions.
What do you think?
If you go inside, it's really labyrinthine, that's true. You have many branchings, rooms, and when I went the first time inside, I also took a string with me because I did not know what is expecting me. No, and most of people go just inside once, and then they take a string.
So you think they're actually doing it so they don't lose their way, like Theseus?
If you go in the first time, you don't know it. It's for security, I think it's prudent.
According to the Swiss caver, the Gortin complex does form an ancient labyrinth. It's believed to date back to Roman times and also features on a 500-year-old Dutch map marked with a unique symbol of a labyrinth. A map of the Gortin complex was also made, apparently by the French, more than 200 years ago. Video made by cavers who managed to get in.
Crawl down into the labyrinth cave is incredibly narrow and tight. To get in, you must squirm your way through a narrow opening and then down past an iron gate.
A tunnel leads into the main body of the complex and the first of many junctions. Both directions lead to other tunnels that split into one or more others. The structures seem at least in part to be man-made, with numerous right angles and chiseled surfaces. The roof appears to have collapsed in some places. In other parts, the ceilings have large fissures and cracks. These cavers managed to explore 2.5 kilometers of corridors and chambers. The layout is highly complex, as if deliberately designed to confuse and disorientate. The tunnels frequently split, leading to dead ends and circles that lead the explorers back where they started. And it's big. The area explored so far covers a staggering 9,000 square meters.
Here you can see columns around the room, which give the impression of branching passageways, which is where I think some of the first ideas of the mythology became attached to the site.
Signs on the walls betray the presence of earlier visitors, including the name of Dumas, the French spy who produced one of the only maps of the complex, and swastikas. The Nazis used the tunnels to store ammunition during the Second World War. While occupying Crete, the Germans used the Gortin tunnels to store tons of high explosives and ammunition. Before they left, many tunnels were demolished. Whatever secrets lay hidden among them remain buried underground. What began with a mysterious symbol on a 500-year-old map has ended with blocked access to the bizarre tunnel complex of Gortin. Did its underground maze inspire the legend of Theseus and the marauding Minotaur? Tantalizingly, the answer lies just out of reach.